First law, make it obvious. Chapter 4, the man who did not look right. The psychologist Carrie Klein once told me a story about a woman who attended a family gathering. She had spent years working as a paramedic and upon arriving the event took one look at her father-in-law and got very concerned. I don't like the way you look, she said. Her father-in-law, who was feeling perfectly fine, jokingly replied, well, I don't like your looks either. No, she insisted. You need to go to hospital now. A few hours later, the man was undergoing life-saving surgery after an examination had revealed that he had a blockage to a major artery and was at immediate risk of heart attack. Without his daughter-in-law's intuition, he could have died. What did the paramedic see? How did she predict his impending heart attack? When major arteries are obstructed, the body focuses on sending blood to critical organs and away from peripheral locations near the surface or skin. The result is a change in the pattern of distribution of blood in the face. After many years of working with the people with the heart failure, the woman had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize this pattern on sight. She could not explain what it was that she noticed in her father-in-law's face, but she knew something was wrong. Similar stories exist in other fields. For example, military analysis can identify which blip on a radar scan is the enemy missile and which one is a plane from their own fleet, even though they travel at the same speed, flying at same altitude, looking identical on radar in nearly every respect. During the Gulf War, Lieutenant Commander Michel Relay saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shot down, despite the fact that it looked exactly like the battleship owns planes on the radar. He made the right call, but even his superior officers could not explain how he did it. Museum curators have been known to discern the difference between an authentic piece of art and an expertly produced counterfeit, even though they can't tell you precisely which details tipped them off. Experienced radiologist can look at a brain and scan predict the area where the stroke will develop before any obvious signs are visible to the untrained eye. I have even heard of hairdressers noticing whether a client is pregnant based on only on the feel of her hair. The human brain is production machine. It's continuously taking in your surrounding and analyzing the information it come across. Wherever your experience and something repeatedly like a paramedic seeing the face of a heart attack patiently or military analyst seeing a missile on radar skin, your brain begins noticing what is important, sorting through the details and highlighting the relevant cues and cataloging that information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lesson learned through experience. We can't always explain what it is we are learning, but learning is happening all along the way, and your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation for every habit you have. We underestimate how much our brain and bodies can do without thinking. You do not tell your hair to grow, your heart to pump, your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest, and yet your body handles all this and more on autopilot. You are much more than your conscious self. Consider hunger. How do you know when you are hungry? You don't necessarily have to see a cookie on the counter to realize that it is time to eat. Appetite and hunger are governed non-consciously. Your body has a variety of feedback loops that gradually alert you when it is time to eat again and that track what is on around you and within you. Cravings can arise thanks to hormones and chemicals circulating through the body. Suddenly you are hungry, and even though you are not quite sure what tipped you off, this is one of the top most surprising insights about your habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue can habit to do begin. You can notice an opportunity and take an action without dictating conscious attention to it. This is what making habit useful. It's also what makes them dangerous. As the habit form, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall on old patterns before you realize that what's happening, unless someone points it out to you. You may notice that you cover your mouth with your hand whenever you laugh, that you apologize before asking a question, or that you have a habit of finishing other people's sentences. And the more you repeat these patterns, the less likely you come to question that you are doing and why you are doing it. The ones I heard it of retail clerk who was instructed to cut up empty gift cards after customer had used up the balance on the card. One day, the clerk flashed out a few customers on a row who purchased with cards. When the next person walked up and the clerk swiped out the customer's actual credit card, picked up the scissors, and then cut it in half entirely on autopilot before looking at the stunned customer and realizing what had just happened. The another woman I come across in my research was former school teacher who had switched a corporate job. Even though she was now working with adults, her old habits would kick in, and she kept asking co-workers if they had washed their hands after going to the bathroom. Also found the story of a man who had spent years working as a lifeguard and would occasionally yell "walk" whenever he saw a child running. Over time, the cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible. The treats on the kitchen counter, the remote control next to the couch, the phone in our pocket, our responses to these clues are so deeply encoded that you may feel like urge to act come from nowhere. From this reason, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This can be more challenging than it sounds because once a habit is firmly rooted in your life, it's most non-conscious and automatic. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make it the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The habits are scorecard. The Japanese railway system is regarded as one of the best in the world. If you ever find yourself riding a train in Tokyo, you will notice that the conductors have a peculiar habit. As each operator runs the train, they proceed through the ritual of pointing at different objects and calling out commands. When the train approaches a signal, the operator will point it at and say, "Signal is green." As the train pulls out into and out of each station, the operator will point at the speedometer and call out the exact speed. When it's time to leave, the operator will point at the timetable, state the time out on the platform. Other employees are performing similar actions. Before each train departs, staff members will point along the edge of the platform and declare all clear. Every detail is identified, pointed at, and named aloud. This process is known as pointing and calling. Is a safely system designed to reduce mistakes. It seems silly, but it works incredibly well. Pointing and calling reduces errors by up to 85% and cut accident by 30%. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a modified version that is point only, and within 2 years of implementation, incidents of incorrectly berthed subways fell 57%. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness from non conscious habit to a more conscious level. Because the train operators must use their eyes, habit, hands, mouths, and ears, they are more likely to notice problem because something goes wrong. My wife does something similar. Whenever we are preparing to walk outdoor for a trip, she verbally calls out the most essential items in her packing list. I have got my keys, I have got my wallet, I have got my glasses, I have got my husband. The more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about and it. And when we have done something a thousand times, we begin to overlook things. We assume that the next time will be just like the last. We are so used to things to doing what we have always done that we don't stop the question whether it's right thing to do at all. Many of our failures and performances are largely attributable to lack of self-awareness. One of our greatest challenges in changing habits and maintaining awareness of what we are actually doing. This help explain by why the consequences of bad habits can sneak upon us. We need a point on call system for our personal lives. That's the origin of habit scorecard, which is a simply exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. To create your own, make a list of your daily habits. Here's a simple of your list you might start. Wake up, turn off alarm, check my phone, go to bathroom, wait your myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, put on deodorant, hang up the towel to dry, get dressed and make a cup of tea. and so on. Once you have a full list, look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good habit or a bad habit or a neutral habit? And if this is a good habit, write plus next to it. And if it is a bad habit, write minus. If it is a neutral habit, write is equal to. For example, the list above might look like this: wake up is equal to turn off alarm is equal to check my phone minus go to the bathroom is equal to weigh myself plus take a shower plus brush my teeth plus floss my teeth plus put on deodorant plus hang up towel to dry is equal to get dressed make is equal to make a cup of tea plus. The marks you give to particular habit will depend on your situation and your goals. For someone who is trying to lose weight, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit. For someone who is trying to bulk up and add muscle, the same behavior might be a good habit. It all depends on what you are working toward. Scoring or habits can be a bit more complex for another reason as well. The label good habit and bad habit are slightly inaccurate. There are no good habits and bad habits. There are only effective habits, that is, effective at solving problems. All habits serve you in the same way, even at the bad ones, which is why you repeat them. For this exercise, categorize your habits by how they benefit you in the long run. Generally speaking, good habit will have the net positive outcomes. Bad habit have net negative outcomes. Smoking a cigarette may reduce stress right now. That's how it's serving you, but it's not a healthy long term behavior. If you are still having trouble determining how to rate a particular habit, here's a question I like to use: does this behavior help me to become the type of person I wish to be? Does that habit cast a vote or foot against my desired identity? Habits that reinforce your desired identity are usually good. Habits that conflict with your desired identity are usually bad. As you create your habits scorecard, there is no need to change anything first. The goal is to simply notice what is actually going on. Observe your thoughts and actions without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for your faults. Don't praise yourself for your success. If you eat a chocolate bar every morning, acknowledge it as almost if you were watching someone else on how interesting that they would do such a thing. If you binge eat, simply notice that you are eating more calories than you should. If you waste your time online, notice that you are spending your life in a way that you do not want to. The first step to change a bad habit is to be on the lookout for them. If you feel like you need extra help, then you can try pointing and calling in your own life. Say out loud actions that you are thinking of taking and what outcome will be. If you want to cut back on your junk food habit but notice yourself grabbing another cookie, say out loud, I am about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it. Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health. Hearing your bad habits spoken along makes the consequences seem more real. It adds weight to the action and rather letting yourself mindlessly slip into an old routine. This approach is useful even if you are simply trying to remember a task or on your to-do list. Just saying quit loud tomorrow, I'll need to go to the post office after lunch, increases the odds that you will actually do it. You are getting yourself to acknowledge the need for action, and that can make all difference. The process of behavior change always starts from awareness. Strategies like pointing and calling habit scorecards are focused on getting you to recognize your habits and acknowledge the cues that trigger them, which make it possible to respond in a way that benefits you. Chapter summary: with enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Once your habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to them, what we are doing. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You need to be aware of your habits before you can change them. Pointing and coiling raises your level of awareness from non-consciousness habit to more consciousness level by verbalizing your actions. The habit scorecard is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior.